Boys, it's a sad day. Creative Assembly's in trouble. Who's Creative Assembly? The people who make Total War games. The one you might know the most is Total War Warhammer 3, which, by the way, love that game.
Bad news for
Way too expensive. It's like $250 for the whole experience. There's a new DLC coming out, so it's going to be $270-ish. I'm assuming it's going to be another $20 DLC. But if you like the game, you will get your time's worth. If you don't, you just waste $250.
me. I've now got to talk about one of my favorite childhood franchises. Take a look at this. Of the
That's Warhammer, is it?
4,500 recent reviews for Total War Warhammer 3,
Yeah.
only 22% are positive. So it's safe to say it's been a bad month for Creative Assembly. It's more of a review nuke than a review bomb. And
I don't know exactly why they're nuking it. I do know they initially started because I think it was two races in the game. They released a patch, right? It was 6.3, I think the patch was. And somehow it just broke like two of the races in the game, like two pretty major, or at least factions of the races. I'm not sure if it's the entire race. But it just completely broke like two races in the game. And every race in the game is a major player. Like, they're very important in the campaign, I guess, if you're doing the Immortal Empires thing it's called, which is like the sandbox version, which is going to be where you get like 90% of your hours. What kept happening was they kept recruiting heroes, but they would never move the heroes. So what would happen is you would pan over and there's just 50 heroes camping this one fucking building.
the funny thing is, it all started with a bug that players didn't think was being fixed fast enough. But it's safe to say it's gone far beyond that, as the last few weeks are being treated as essentially a
This game is
referendum
so
on
cinematic.
everything that's been wrong with Creative Assembly or Total War, and a big opportunity for players to punish them for said failures. And so far, unlike the last few times, there is no sign that players have any intention of reverting these reviews.
I'm gonna check the
People
reviews.
seem real
This video
angry.
is a few
And
hours
for Creative
old.
Assembly,
I
it's
mean, I doubt it would have changed much in a few hours, but you know.
possible timing, and that's because they staked everything on pulling off a massive 25th anniversary celebration that would reveal what's next for the franchise. But with their current game in fire, that's not looking like a safe bet. Total War is no stranger to review bombs, though we're not quite in Shadows of
I mean, if you want to buy it, it's 75% off.
Change territory here. It's not that bad.
Shadows of Change was so bad. If you don't know what Shadows of Change was, it is a $10. I'm actually checking the price here. Yeah, it's $9 DLC. That gives you, I think it's 3 Legendary Lords, or does it just give you the one? There's so many DLCs, I get them all mixed up in my head. Sorry, it's a $9 DLC for one Lord, which is a playable character. And I will admit, I've played him. It's this guy on screen, actually, the Changeling. His gimmick is he can become any other Legendary Lord if he kills them in battle. Which he, admittedly as well, he is one of the most entertaining or one of the most fun races or factions to play in the game, but he is not worth $9. Not at all. 5 at most.
It is pretty bad though, and if you're not aware, Shadows of Change was a DLC that was basically just shrinkflation. There was less content and it costed more. People were rightly pissed. Now, the overall picture of things is that even now, with all the bad stuff that's happened, just a few percentage points of good reviews will bring the game back to being mostly positive on Steam, overall. But it's when we look at the last month that we see the noticeable dip. People are mad about everything from expensive DLC to updates breaking the game, that you need the previous games to play all the factions, and that new content is sparse. And by the way, it absolutely...
Actually, this is one thing I hate.
Play all the factions, and...
This is blood for the blood god, right? So the thing with this DLC is, I think it was in Warhammer 2 and 1 for free. Then in 3, they decided, no, because they wanted to get the rating down. I think it was like PG-15, they wanted to get it down to 13. So they made the gore paywalled. I think it's like $5 for the gore. Now, I bought it because I have every DLC in the game. I got it all like half price to 75% off. So I didn't pay $250, I paid like $120 for the whole game. Which I don't think is too bad for the amount of hours I have in it. I have about 400 hours in the game, and I will definitely get far more. But yeah, there is a lot of stuff here. Like, almost everything here is at least $10. This is, I think, 20 because it's a whole race.
The new content...
This is $10 because the race is only 2 heroes, but I think personally that the ogres are kind of a boring race to play.
Is sparse. And by the way, it absolutely is sparse. I remember the DLC cadence of Total War Warhammer 2. It was blistering. Now it
Yeah, 2 has like the best DLCs by far.
is a
Almost every
comparative
DLC in 2 is
trickle.
really solid.
Most importantly, the complaints are about bugs. And in this case, one specific bug that kicked off this whole story. The timeline of events is key to the story, so let's just go through it.
It was the
Update
Lizardmen
6.3 launched
and
September 2nd.
Tomb Kings that they were broken, right?
And after a weekend beta, as Creative Assembly had to fix an AMD hardware bug. Now, it was a free update. It overhauled the Lizardmen and the Tomb Kings factions, which came from the second and first Total War Warhammer games. And the changes were substantial. They covered economy, unit, resources, just lots of overhauls. And it was all in service of making them match the other factions in the game, actually them feeling like modern factions. But players immediately noticed something rather wrong, that sometimes the AI-controlled leaders of these factions would be completely broken. By broken, I mean they wouldn't build armies, which is kind of important in a Total War game.
If you don't know, basically, every race in the game, every clan, because every race is broken into clans, what they do is they recruit a lord, and that lord leads an army of 20. There's 20 slots in the army, including the lord, so there's 19, technically. And every slot is a section of units, so usually it's 100, 80, 16, or 1. Obviously, depending on like how big the unit is, you know, like a big massive ogre is only going to hold 1 slot, while like infantry is only going to hold 100, like in the one unit, I guess. And lords are powerful, don't get me wrong, but a lord isn't going to do much without a fucking army. And for whatever reason, because you know, you move the lord around, you attack other lords, you attack other settlements, you take opponents' settlements, and you wipe them off the map, is kind of what you do to win, or you aligned with them politically, use diplomacy, stuff like that. But the Lizardmen, which is one of the races, they're in South America. Like, the Warhammer map is literally just Earth if someone with like Tourette's drew it. They're in South America, but they would recruit legendary lords. Actually, no, they had their one legendary lord, and then they would just recruit lords. But they would not recruit armies to those lords. And that would mean that faction, who is, you know, every faction keeps all the factions around them in check, so to speak, right? So that way, you know, you don't have a number 1 power in like 5 turns. Well, I mean, technically you do, it's always going to be number 1, but, you know, they stopped recruiting. So that means that the factions around them got stronger, faster, which, at least in the Lizardmen case, they're next to Clan Pestilence, which is a clan that, if you leave them do their thing, will absolutely become one of the strongest factions in all of the game. You can make the argument for any of that Skaven, though, any of that race, they will become absolutely unstoppable if you leave them to their own devices. Same with Britannia, with humans.
Also wouldn't leave their territory, so they would just immediately get wiped, and this would ruin the
I've
game.
never had an issue with Tomb Kings, so Tomb Kings always get wiped off the map, like, immediately. Tomb Kings don't do fucking nothing. They're really weak, but they're so cool.
Balance. It would essentially mess up people's whole campaigns. So, people noticed this, they reported this, and CA got to work. By September 18th, we got a beta for a hotfix, and that was planned for a September 23rd release. This update would, to quote it, help to address the unintended AI behavior. At least that's what CA thought. During that beta, though, on the 19th, their head of community, Adam Freeman, tells Reddit users that the Lizardmen issue is actually, quote, the tip of a small iceberg. And it turns out their hotfix wouldn't be fixing that problem. The good news was that the community built a workaround, but even the modders involved said that, look, it's better, but it's not a true fix to the problem. Now, thus far in our story, we've got the seeds.
They did what Bethesda does, where they don't actually patch out a bug, they just let the modders do it.
Something bad, but no review bomb. But the review bomb is to come, and here's where it happens. The patch notes frame this as, quote, the final planned game update before the release of the Tides of Torment DLC and patch 7.0, which was slated for late October. That was not the best line, because it basically meant, yeah, there's this beta for, a hotfix that's actually not going to be fixing the problem that you guys all care about. No, that problem is going to be fixed much later, along with a paid DLC. This was not great, and if the hotfix was able to solve the problem, then it all would have worked out fine. But obviously, things did not work out fine. By October 1st, everything changes. That's where we see the start of negative reviews. 57 October 1st, and by October 6th, we are at a rate of 672 negative reviews a day.
Yeah, brother.
And by this date, we had went 7 days of the patch not working. So you may be wondering, why the shift? Well, some people have pointed to a video from Legend of Total.
Yeah, this is what I saw that kind of alerted me to the problem, because I usually don't play races at start in South America. I don't play Pestilence, I don't play Lizardmen, I don't play Luther Harkon, who's a vampire necromancer undead lord. He's really cool, he's really funny. He hates the Lizardmen. It's fucking stupid. Or the Jade Dragon, who starts pretty close to here as well. There's also Oxyotl, who starts down here, but he's also a Lizardman. I don't really play him. I like him, but I just don't play Lizardmen that often. As much as I love them, I find them pretty boring to play. So I wasn't aware of how bad the issue was, because usually I'm on the other fucking side of the map. But when I saw this video, I was like, ooh, it's really bad.
We're highlighting the issue on October 1st.
And I tested it
in the video, we suggest that if players aren't happy with the bugs, or, the suggestion that the bugs won't be fixed anytime soon, then they should let Creative Assembly know, including by using Steam reviews. But here's the thing, when you line up the dates, the uptick in negative reviews is not immediate, but it does seem that it kicked off a chain of discussion that made this story get bigger and bigger and bigger. So the floodgates opened. Public perception from the patch notes is that Creative Assembly aren't planning on fixing a fundamentally broken game until they can do that fix alongside a paid DLC. That doesn't look great. That's the overall public narrative, but there are some comments from the studio that we should actually know about. On October 2nd, Freeman highlighted in the subreddit that he and his team have been talking about the issue on streams and in posts for at least a week now.
I mean, I think the worst part of it is there's this huge bug that effectively breaks some campaigns of the game. And instead of fixing the issue, they're like, yeah, so we're releasing this new DLC that you're going to pay like $20 for. I actually don't know how expensive it is, just going off of other ones. It's going to be $10 to $15, I'd imagine. Which, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to buy the DLC. Day one, no questions asked, I'm buying it. But I also clarify to people, I fucking love Total War Warhammer. Even if the game is broken, I still find it enjoyable to play. I would say if you have beef with it's not Games Workshop, well, it is Games Workshop, but Creative Assembly, don't buy it. But for someone like me, who does eventually plan to make content with it as well, yeah, it makes sense for you to buy it, but no, don't.
He confirmed that they want to get a fix out faster than 7.0, but that basically just depends on whether they can get something together that works. And
yeah, they want to get the patch out before the DLC comes out so more people will buy the DLC, but they're making the argument that it will be impossible to release the patch before the DLC. So they're like, we want to make money, but we also want to fix the game. But obviously making money comes above fixing the game.
What happened, they did. 14 working days after the first hotfix,
there's another hotfix here. 6th,
Creative Assembly announced that they have a second hotfix in development. The lead technical designer, Radislav, explained what happened, where effectively this bug wasn't caused by update 6.3 in the faction rework, but it was
This is Oxyotl, by the way. One of the best DLCs you can buy. He's a really fun lord to play. I beat his campaign and I never touched him again, but I'm just like that for every lord. My favorites in the game, I beat the campaign with them, I don't touch him again.
Every faction that uses pooled resources is impacted by this, and previously it was only a few lords that were hit, so CA would get an occasional trickle of reports. But with the Tomb Kings and Lizardman economy reworks, it was now happening on a far larger scale. So they then did a
with Lizardmen, this is going to be such a specific video to only a few people are going to like. Don't worry, we're going back to the bugs one tomorrow. And we're doing Outer Worlds tomorrow. But anyway. Lizardmen had a really poor economy, but I played them after the rework. They had a really nice economy now. I was making plus 40,000 a turn by think it was turn 60.
Apologize for the problems, and they announced that they are delaying any new DLC news or marketing for now so that they can focus on this issue. And this extends to Total War's 25th anniversary streams and co-marketing with the likes of Games Workshop, so this is hitting them on an organizational scale.
Of course it
now,
is.
on October 14th, a week later, CA...
No one wants to, like, if you as a consumer, right? You go on Steam, you're looking at a game that you might want to buy, you're kind of on the fence on, right? Like, if I were to go to Arc Raiders isn't out. Hades 2, right? If I go on Hades 2, I'm like, I don't know whether I should buy it, and I see recent reviews, overwhelmingly negative. Immediately, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to buy that. Because in my mind, that's signaling, okay, the devs have fucked up recently, and they've fucked up bad enough to where people actually went out of their way to review bomb the game. Like, do you know how hard it is to get people to review a game? Pretty fucking hard. So if I see, like, overwhelmingly negative, like, I had this issue for, it was some card game, I can't remember now. I think it was called Last Spire. I'll double check that I have the name right, although the name isn't really important. I was going to buy it, but I didn't because all the recent reviews were overwhelmingly negative. And it turns out that the devs put, like, basically ransomware, or not ransomware, they put some anti-cheat that basically just steals all your info. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't download the game. So yes, it is hurting them on an organizational level. Of course it is. People aren't going to buy the game when they see overwhelmingly negative reviews, at least for the most part. I'm sure some people will.
Rolled out patch 6.3.2, with this seemingly being to fix the issue. And it came alongside an apology and an explanation that they didn't classify the bug strongly enough before 6.3.1, basically thinking that they could just wait until the next full patch so the technical teams could roll everything together. Obviously, that didn't work, and it kicked off a bit of a worst-case scenario of PR. Going forward, any AI reports like this will require hotfixes rather than waiting for patches, and otherwise they're delaying the Tides of Torment DLC until December 4th, but they are releasing a trailer, and they showed off the new mod manager that's coming to the game. When we check in Steam, we see the negative reviews slow after the 6th, and they're almost back to parity with the positive ones now. But here's the thing, it's not just about one bug, it is about something far larger between players and this company, and that's why some of the changes players have wanted to see have not exactly been
Yeah, players have had beef with this company for a very long time.
Coming. So when we zoom out big
which isn't unique, by the way. There's plenty of companies that players do not like, but they play the game. You know, I think something like Fortnite or Call of Duty Warzone is an example of this. There are a lot of people who like play Fortnite but don't like Epic Games. There are a lot of people who play Warzone but don't like, is it Infinity Ward? They don't like Infinity Ward, but they'll play the game. So you're in this weird, like, dichotomy where it's like, I want to spend money on this game because I like this game, but I don't like you as a company, so I don't want to spend the money. And there's kind of this, like, there's basically, imagine a player sitting on a fence, and just a little gust of wind could push them off either way.
This bug in itself is mostly fairly understandable, but they absolutely could have done a better job in communicating it, you know, not just having things stuffed away in Reddit. So, a bunch of things kind of cocked up, but you can understand it. Creative Assembly implements some new systems.
Or Borderlands. Actually, I'm looking at my library here. Borderlands is a much better example of that. Loads of people love Borderlands. They fucking hate Randy Pitchford. Completely understandable.
Testing didn't pick up an extra effect that they had in some NPC factions. Then, when it hits public, it becomes way more apparent. And
this
evidently they went and tried to fix it and found out that it was no easy thing to fix, because actually it revealed fundamental problems in the game that went way deeper.
Yeah.
I get that from an engineering perspective, right? But obviously, this isn't just about engineering, it is about PR, and it's about player confidence. And you see that in the reviews. Looking through them, people aren't just mad about this bug. The fact that this was going on before 6.3 drops was kind of just more ammunition to them, proof that, oh yeah, they'll do the updates, but only when it's also alongside something that I can buy. The idea was basically that, despite an overhaul of AI earlier on this summer, that the systems and the design of the game simply don't work as a whole. And honestly, there's times whenever I've played this game where, yeah, you do just feel weird, funky business absolutely everywhere. Because, well, yeah, it's a huge game. It's cobbled together out of other games. And basically,
it's literally 3 games, like, stitched together with however many DLCs. And there's... How many factions are there again? when you start a campaign, see, I play it modded, so I have some extra, so I don't remember exactly. I think it's 287 of different factions, or yeah, different like clans. Obviously, if you have 287 different fucking mechanics going simultaneously, you're going to have some issues.
Of leaks, our understanding is that its codebase is kind of like a big ball of spaghetti that's held together with hairspray. Weird analogy, but whatever,
I
I'll go with
understand,
it.
yeah.
Point basically is, something's fundamentally foobar, it's been foobar for a long ass time, and people don't have faith that it will no longer be foobar in the near future. And it really is a mess. I mean, you've got the idea that every update, however well intentioned, breaks the game, and that's happening as Creative Assembly are just trying to crank out more DLC. But other people are also saying, hey, there's a complete lack of new DLC. I mean, Tides of Torment is the only release planned this year. That is kind of crazy. It's just a mess on all fronts.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. I don't think it's so much as lack of DLC is what people are complaining about. It's lack of content as a whole. Like, that fucking Changeling DLC that I keep blanking on the name of, realistically, that should have been 3 lords, not 1. I don't think people would be complaining as much about the lack of content if every DLC was 3 legendary lords. Like, Tides of Torment, from what I know, is 3 lords. It's a Slanesh lord, it's a High Elf lord, and a Norska lord, from what I remember. I think, realistically speaking, I think they should be getting a legendary lord out every 3 months. Like, every quarter. They're releasing 3 at once, so technically speaking, we're going 1 every 4 months. Not ideal, but I will give them the pass.
Some others also frame this state of affairs as the reason why Legend of Total War has announced his departure from content creation for this game franchise, despite that not being the whole story behind his departure as he laid out in his own video. So, yeah,
he
the
mentioned
info
there's a few
space
problems.
is a bit of a mess, but basically, long-standing bugs and problems from previous updates don't seem to be getting fixed, even as modders claim that they're finding ways to implement changes. All of this has stuck with the community, and it absolutely sucks, especially with a game as complex as this one, and one with the fundamental potential of a massive combined Warhammer Total War game. But it does make sense. It makes complete sense to me, because you just need to look at the studio. You just need to look at the series. Whenever we heard, even us directly, from Creative Assembly insiders back in 2023, the story was that they had massive
Tiny team, 4 for 1, grew to 80. There's 2 teams of foot. Why is there 2 separate teams? I see the issue. Yeah, okay, they're doing that thing every fucking tech company does. They increase the amount of people on the team, yet somehow it becomes less efficient. Love that, yeah. The Warscape engine came out around 2007. Oh, man. You know what they should do? They should just say, fuck it, release Tides of Torment, whatever. Keep your 2 teams, have one working on DLC, and just make one to work on Warhammer 4. But fucking fix the engine, or make a new one entirely. I don't care. Either or is fine. I would prefer you make a new one, but I do understand it's very difficult. Fix your engine. Add more. Actually, I think they've added every race, so the only thing they could do is move to Age of Sigmar, which storyline wise is like post fantasy, but it still kind of isn't fantasy. If you get what I mean, it's like I actually don't know how to describe it. You know, it's like you're still fantasy, but you're a bit more advanced technologically. But then there'd be some issues with, like, well, you know, the campaign. Like, well, there's going to be 2 lords in one place, technically speaking, so that doesn't make sense. But I'm sure they could figure out some way around it. And if you're making Warhammer 4 and it's literally just improvements, make it free for anyone who owns Warhammer 3.
volumes of technical
They won't, but it should be that way.
Debt in how their games were built and maintained. Lots of different forks of the engine from different games all cobbled together. A total nightmare. And to make matters worse, consider that this is across a game that's been worked on for more than a decade, with the teams who led those games apparently being believed to have handed this over to the team at Creative Assembly Sophia after they finished up with Pharaoh. So, a team who basically are left having to balance generating revenue from DLC with keeping
how does the Total War engine work in the other Total War games? Because I know there's a few of them. I only know from Warhammer because that's the only one I've played and I watch. I don't really care so much about the other ones. I might get into them. I don't know. But I'm just curious how it is in other games. Is it just Warhammer that's fucked, or is it just the engine as a whole is a bit sloppy?
Existing players happy with free updates
How many
like the
Total War games are
6.3
there?
update was intended to be, and also while trying to work on existing problems and bugs. All that at the same time when they've basically been dealt a really shit hand in the form of a nightmare stack of technology that they've got to work with. Now that's a lot of plates to keep spinning, especially after two massive rounds of layoffs that occurred in 2023 and 2024. That means Creative Assembly are not in a position where they can just keep throwing money and resources into Total War Warhammer 3, which absolutely goddamn sucks. And of course, well, it is their own actions that have probably led us to this position. The years of getting things wrong, even the entire botched launch of Total War Warhammer 3. I mean, goddamn, the initial campaign that it launched with, what the hell were they thinking?
Oh, yeah, I played that campaign. Oh my god, that was so shit. I bought the game, I played the, like, campaign, the thing it tells you to play. I got so sick of it, I uninstalled the game, didn't touch it for a year. Then I came back to it, and then I actually enjoyed it because I just didn't do what the game told me to do.
Ultimately, it's people on the front line having to deal with problems outside of their control, seemingly, the result of management decisions that, let's just say, are highly debated. And with Sega, a corporate owner who has been very publicly exiting European development. Add to that the basic fact that they can't just be a DLC machine, that they will actually need to, make a new game at some point in time. By all accounts, that is one of the plates that they're spinning, and we're going to know all about it pretty soon. So, let's get to grips with the future of this franchise. Now, the important thing for you to understand is that Creative Assembly was publishing yearly releases for most of its existence. And as the games got in some ways more complex, that led to things just running into the ground. Now, that will be at least 2026, 3 years removed from Total War Pharaoh without a new release. That would mean that this would be the longest wait for a new Creative Assembly game since 1993, before I was born. Yeah, they've been cranking out games for a long-ass time. Now, on December 4th, alongside the Tides of Torment DLC for Total War Warhammer 3 releasing, they're also going to show more for that game. But broadly, the expectation is that it will be wound down, because the future is in their new historical and fantasy games. These are the games Creative Assembly are promising to showcase this year.
Yeah.
They're basically new games that will effectively act as fresh starts. That's the reason they slammed the brakes on new releases. Evidently, they in no way could have kept on going without basically killing the franchise. And with that comes a promise of new code bases, of things actually being developed halfway right, at least in an ideal case, and basically several years of development for new systems and fresh settings. Games that maybe...
Yeah, I don't mind going without content for, 5 years probably? Ish. I don't mind going without content for 5 years if it means when they come back with a bang. I actually have no issue with that.
You will feel less like continual reskins of the last game. And even the promise that these will be spicy games for old people with a higher age rating. Though that's just because they are no longer upselling blood as an additional DLC. Still can't believe they did that. And also,
sorry, it's $3. I think I said it was $5 earlier.
Faction bonuses. It's much like another video we did recently about Activision just trying to scream from the rooftops, "Hello, core enthusiast audience, please come back, please, we really need money." They're just trying to stop the bad shit that made short-term money because they've maybe realized that, yeah, their enthusiasts actually goddamn matter, and you can't...
Well, yeah, they tried to sell to everyone. They realized that if you try and, get everyone on board, no one's going to be on board. So they said, fuck, okay. We need to go back to our audience. Oh, wait, our audience left us because we tried to market to everyone. Now we actually have no one.
Cannot take them for granted and just treat them as little pay pigs
Bar maybe
who
a whale
will
or
always
two.
buy next product.
It'll always exist.
Now, that fresh start is something the Total War Warhammer 3 literally never had, not even from its first planning session, because it was linked to the previous two games, requiring all of their DLC to work with code that probably would have been, compatible throughout, so the fundamental changes were hard to maintain. I've no doubt that what they wanted to do was a repeat of Total War Warhammer 2, where they could just crank out cool new factions that people could buy and they could have lovely high Steam numbers. But obviously, the development of Warhammer 3 kind of broke the back of that franchise, and they have just been limping forward since. So if it feels like the game you care about has had way fewer resources and like budget assigned to it, that's almost certainly because they realized shit's fucked, that it's completely messed up, that they kind of need a fresh start. So I would imagine that's why they've got their multiple studios working on new things that are not going to be fundamentally FUBAR from the start, where they
Yeah.
presumably won't be
I
inheriting.
I would imagine as well it'd be a lot harder for them to make like a new, like if they were making a Warhammer 4 or remastering whatever, because I would imagine they would need the thumbs up from Games Workshop as well since they own Warhammer. Although Warhammer Fantasy technically speaking doesn't exist anymore. It's the old world. So I don't know if they're in charge of fantasy anymore. I'm sure they are. Hmm.
Bad mistakes, the rushed technical decisions,
What's their
that all
best
came
seller, I
from an
wonder?
era of them cranking product, cranking product, cranking product. And I really remember the rot setting in with Rome 2. Rome 2 was one of the most disappointing moments that I've had in my history with gaming as a hobby. And since then, yearly product, lots of DLC, just trying to keep it going and going
I
and going, all
I'll
while
wait till he finishes
seeing
and I'll say.
dwindling, spiky success and just accruing more and more cuts, more and more scar tissue, to the point where, with Pharaoh and Warhammer 3, it just goddamn died. And of course it died. Look at how it was being ran. So, they basically got to deliver a whole new future, one that's credible, one that people can actually believe. And that is why this whole drama around this one book is, I would say, the worst case nightmare PR scenario, because they have everything riding on the 25th anniversary. So the last thing that they needed was this. But this is what they.
So I sorted by their best reviews for Games Workshop because I imagine it's just like the best way I can get. Medieval 2 is at the top. Then it's Warhammer 2. Then it's Total War Shogun, Napoleon, Warhammer 2 again, Total War Empire, Shogun. Then it's actually a Warhammer 3 DLC. Like, the DLCs are decently ranked for the most part. But Warhammer 3 is not high up here at all. Um, so yeah, it would make the most sense in terms of like a money making perspective, like from the company to remake, or I don't know, sequel, whatever, like Medieval, Shogun, Napoleon. Get all those out, milk them for as much money as possible, and then if they want, they can go back to Warhammer. Now, I personally would prefer they go to Warhammer because that's the one I play. I feel like this is me with Save the World all over again. It's like, I wish you would update that. That's the one I fucking play. Fortnite Save the World was robbed, man. Ugh. Maybe we'll talk about that some other day. I don't know. Um, I'm going to go record the other spider video. So I'll upload that in like a day or two. Probably tomorrow. And I'll see you all next time.